My mom texted my 10-year-old, "You shouldn't come for Christmas, it's best if you stay away," then acted like nothing happened. My daughter looked down at her handmade gift, silent. I didn't cry. I just said, "Got it." 5 hours later, the family feud blew up. She whispered, "Did I go too far?" This happened last Christmas, and I still haven't forgiven them. I don't think I ever will. It was December 18th. I remember that because Gracie, my daughter, had been working all day on this gingerbread house she wanted to give my mom. Not some kit from Walmart either. She'd looked up videos online, drew a little sketch of how she wanted it to look, and made the whole thing from scratch. She even named it G, short for Gracie's Gingerbread Gallery, like it was gonna be the first of many. It had little candy canes out front, gumdrops for bushes, even a glittery heart on the roof that she said was for Grandma. That morning, she told me she couldn't wait to give it to her, said she hoped Grandma would put it on the fireplace like last year. By noon, she was done. And she was proud. I was too. Then around 4 p.m., I was in the kitchen doing dishes when Gracie walked in with my phone. Her face looked, I don't know how to explain it, like something inside her had cracked but she didn't know how to say it. She just held the phone out and asked me, "Is this for me?" I dried my hands and took the phone. The message was from my mom, and it said, "You shouldn't come for Christmas. It's best if you stay away." That was it, no explanation. No love you, nothing, just that. Gracie looked at me, then looked down at the little house in her hands. Then she sat on the floor real slow and didn't say another word. She just kept touching the gumdrops like maybe she'd made a mistake. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't ask why. I just walked into the living room, sat down, and texted back. "Got it. Here's what you need to know about my parents. They've always been cold. Not physically abusive, but the emotional damage they've done could fill 100 journals. I grew up walking on eggshells. My mom, Susan, made everything about control. My dad, Frank, just nodded along and stayed quiet unless he was criticizing someone. Usually me. When I got pregnant at 24, they told me I'd ruined my life. I wasn't married, the guy bilayed. It wasn't ideal, but I kept the baby. Best choice I ever made. They didn't come to the hospital when Gracie was born. Didn't send flowers, nothing. The first time they saw her, she was 6 weeks old and they showed up with a pack of size 2 diapers. She was barely a newborn, and a wrinkled baby blanket from the back of their closet. No joy, no love. Just awkward silence and judgment. That was the beginning. Over the years, it was like they barely tolerated Gracie. They'd complain she was too emotional, that she cried too much, that she was too sensitive. Gracie is gentle. She likes drawing, reading, helping me bake. She's not loud, she's not hyper, she just wants to be included. My mom couldn't stand that. She wanted Gracie to be tough, not a crier. I used to get that same crap growing up. Anytime I had feelings, she'd shut me down. One time when Gracie was 6, she got upset at Christmas dinner because someone made fun of her drawing. My mom rolled her eyes and said right in front of everyone, "She needs to grow thicker skin." Just like her mother, too soft. I should have left right then and there, but I didn't. I told myself it was just one comment. Then there was the year they gave Gracie a used puzzle for Christmas. The box had duct tape on it, and when we opened it, half the pieces were missing. Year before that, she got a boy's hoodie, wrong size, clearly secondhand. They didn't even try. Gracie still said thank you. She still smiled. Still called my mom Grandma and made her crafts and birthday cards and little bracelets. And now she told her not to come for Christmas. You want to know the worst part? Gracie had no idea why. She sat on that floor staring at the house she made with so much love and just kept saying, "What did I do?" That's when I felt something inside me go completely quiet. Like something snapped, but not in an angry, screaming kind of way. It was colder than that. I sat down, grabbed my laptop, and started going through years of texts and emails from my mom. All the ones where she criticized me, Gracie, our life. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just let this go. Not again. I called my sister, Jeline, thinking maybe she'd back me up. Wrong move. When I told her what Mom said to Gracie, she hesitated and then said, "Well, maybe it's for the best. She's been acting kind of dramatic lately. Mom just needs some space." Some space. From a 10-year-old girl who made her a Christmas gift and just wanted to see her grandma. That's when I knew. They'd all been talking. Behind my back. About me. About Gracie. The betrayal hit harder than I thought it would. Jolene used to be my best friend, but over the years she got sucked in, always trying to please mom, always playing both sides, always calling me too emotional whenever I stood up for myself. I realized in that moment none of them were ever going to change, so I stopped waiting for them to. That night, I made a plan. 5 hours after my mom sent that text, I started collecting every cruel message she'd ever sent me. Stuff like, "You're raising a snowflake. She's not normal, something's off with her. Maybe if you had a man in the house, she wouldn't be so clingy." Every single thing she ever said that made me question myself, doubt my kid, or feel like garbage, I saved it. Then I made a new Facebook account, one nobody would trace back to me, and I joined every mom group in her area. Olathe, Kansas, Suburbs Central. My mom's a known name in those circles. Always posting about family values and raising strong women. I started dropping screenshots with no context. Just, "This is what Susan H. says about her granddaughter behind closed doors." The comments came fast. People were shocked, some defended her, others were furious. But the damage was done. Then I emailed her pastor, attached all the screenshots, asked if this was the kind of role model they wanted speaking at women's events. Then I remembered the $5,000 my dad borrowed from me back in 2011. Said it was for a roof repair. Never paid it back. I still had the IOU in my files. I filed a small claims lawsuit. Nothing huge. Just enough to make it public. Just enough to put their name on court records. Just enough to let them know I wasn't afraid of them anymore. Then I turned off my phone and sat with Gracie on the couch. She asked me, "Are we still going to Grandma's?" I looked at her and said, "No, baby, not this year, maybe not ever again." She thought about that for a minute. Then she nodded. She picked up the gingerbread house, put it on our little coffee table and said, "Can we keep it, just for us?" I said, "Yeah, we can." The next day I woke up to 7 missed calls. 3 from my mom, 2 from my dad. 1 from Jolene. 1 unknown number, probably their lawyer friend. I didn't answer any of them. Then came the texts, first from mom. "Are you seriously trying to ruin my life over a misunderstanding?" Then, "You're unstable. This is harassment." Then, "Think about what you're doing to this family." That one made me laugh out loud. This family. The one that just told a 10-year-old girl she wasn't welcome for Christmas. They didn't care about family. They cared about control. They cared about keeping up appearances. And I just shattered that. By the afternoon, the group posts had spread. One of my mom's old church friends, Patty something, even commented, "I always had a feeling something wasn't right with Susan. This confirms it." That had to sting. That evening, Jolene showed up at my door, uninvited. She knocked 3 times, loud and fast, like she was the police. I opened the door halfway. Gracie was in the back room with headphones on. Jolene looked like she hadn't slept. She was wearing one of those puffy North Face vests and had mascara smudged under her eyes. She didn't say hi, just jumped straight in. "What the hell are you doing, Meg?" I didn't say anything. "You're humiliating Mom. You're dragging her name through the dirt over a text message. Do you even realize what you've done?" I leaned on the doorframe and said, "She told my daughter not to come for Christmas, Joe." "That's not a misunderstanding." "She didn't mean it like that," she snapped. "She meant maybe this year would be quieter without my kid," I cut in. Jolene's mouth opened, then shut. "She was having a hard time," she tried. "Dad's been stressed and—" No more excuses. I don't care if they were stressed. I don't care if the sky was falling. You don't send that to a child. You don't make a 10-year-old sit on the floor holding a handmade gift wondering what she did wrong. Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't flinch. She looked down and said, "They're talking about cutting you off. Legally. No more inheritance. No trust money, nothing." I almost laughed again. "You think I care about their money? I just thought you should know." Then she paused. Looked past me into the house like she was hoping to see Gracie. "She misses you," Jolene said. I shook my head. "No, she misses who she thought you were." Then I closed the door. 3 days before Christmas, I got a certified letter. Cease and desist. From my father's lawyer friend, just like I guessed. It was a sloppy, empty threat. No actual case, just pressure. I posted it on the same mom group with the caption, "When you expose a toxic grandmother and she tries to silence you legally, imagine being scared of a 10-year-old's gingerbread house." Another 200 comments. People offered to Venmo me money for legal fees. I didn't take any. I didn't need money. I needed the truth to stay out in the open. Then, on Christmas Eve, something happened I didn't expect. Gracie's school counselor called me. She said someone anonymous had called the school hotline and reported that Gracie was in a hostile environment. They claimed I was emotionally manipulating her, turning her against family, and using her as a pawn. I stood there frozen, phone in hand, staring at the wall. It was them. It had to be. My own parents, maybe even Jeline, had tried to weaponize CPS. I could barely speak. My voice cracked as I asked the counselor what would happen next. She said they were obligated to open a soft investigation. That someone might come by. That I should be ready. I thanked her, hung up, and walked into the living room where Gracie was decorating her third gingerbread house. She looked up at me and smiled. "Want to help with the roof, Mom?" I sat down next to her. My hands were shaking, but I kept my voice calm. "Yeah, baby, let's finish it together." 2 days later, a social worker showed up. Her name was Lisa, mid-40s, wore a heavy coat and had tired eyes like someone who's seen a lot. She came inside, asked me a few basic questions, asked to talk to Gracie. I let her. They sat at the kitchen table for 20 minutes while I waited in the living room, clutching the edge of the couch. Gracie told her everything: how she made a gift, how Grandma told her not to come, how she cried, how I held her and told her it wasn't her fault. Lisa came out, looked at me, and said, "She's a very well-adjusted little girl. Kind, honest, I'm not concerned." I nodded, couldn't speak, just nodded. Then she added, "This happens more than you'd think, families retaliating when they lose control." Before she left, she looked me in the eye and said, "Don't let them scare you." That night, after Gracie went to bed, I poured myself a glass of wine, sat at the kitchen table, and stared at that little gingerbread house. The first one, the one she made before everything fell apart. There was a tiny crack in the roof from when she dropped it after reading the message. I hadn't fixed it. I didn't want to. It reminded me of what they did, of how far they'd go, and of what I still had left to do, because I wasn't done yet, not by a long shot. 2 days after the CPS visit, the doorbell rang again. I looked through the peephole and felt my stomach twist. It was Pastor Daniels. My parents' pastor. The same man who'd baptized me when I was 12. Same guy who used to sit at our table every Easter and say grace like he was giving a sermon. He was holding a brown envelope in one hand and a Bible in the other. I opened the door, barely. "Hi, Megan," he said, like we were old friends. I didn't say anything. "I was hoping we could talk. It won't take long." I stepped outside and shut the door behind me, keeping Gracie inside. He looked me up and down, then handed me the envelope. "Your mother asked me to deliver this." I didn't take it. He set it down on the porch rail, then said, "She's hurting, Megan. She says you've turned everyone against her. That you've made her out to be some kind of monster." "She did that herself," I said. "She says you're holding on to pain, that maybe you're letting past wounds cloud your judgment." I laughed, but it didn't sound right. "Is that what this is? Judgment?" He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Family's complicated, but forgiveness is powerful." I looked him dead in the eye. "Do you know what was in the message she sent Gracie?" She said it was taken out of context. "She told a child to stay away from Christmas." He looked uncomfortable then. Shifted his Bible from one hand to the other. "I'm not here to take sides," he said. "Then why are you here?" He didn't answer. I picked up the envelope and opened it right in front of him. Inside was a 4-page handwritten letter from my mom. The first page was an apology, if you could even call it that. It said things like, "I'm sorry you misunderstood me. I never intended to hurt Gracie, but children can be easily influenced. You've always been too sensitive, and I worry Gracie is following that same path. You're overreacting, as usual." No accountability. No real remorse, just manipulation dressed up as concern. The last line, "We forgive you, Megan. When you're ready to come back to the family, the door is open." They forgive me. I folded the letter back up, shoved it in the envelope, and handed it to Pastor Daniels. "You can give this back to her," I said, "and tell her next time she wants to manipulate someone, she should pick a weaker target." He looked genuinely sad, like he was watching someone die in front of him. He started to say something else, but I shut the door. Hard. That night, Jeline sent me a text. I hadn't heard from her since the last time she showed up. "Mom's saying she's going to file for grandparents' rights. She's talking to a lawyer." I stared at the screen for a while. Grandparents' rights. They were trying to go legal. Again, it hit me then this wasn't just about reputation anymore. They were trying to take Gracie, Not custody, they'd never win that. But visitation, forced visits. Court-ordered weekends. Time alone with the same woman who told her to stay away from Christmas. I'd seen it happen before, to other moms, especially in states like Kansas. If you could prove the parent was cutting off family ties or alienating the child from loving grandparents, some judges sided with the grandparents, especially if they had money, which mine did. I felt something cold crawl up my back. They were trying to go around me. I called a lawyer the next morning. A real one, not some friend of a friend. A woman named Deirdre who specialized in high-conflict family cases. I'd found her through a referral from another mom in the support group. I told her everything. Showed her the messages, the CPS visit, the pastor, the fake apology. She listened without interrupting, took notes, nodded slowly. When I was done, she looked me straight in the eye and said, "They're laying the groundwork. They're making you look unstable, unreasonable, alienating. This is textbook." "What do I do?" I asked. "You document everything," she said. "From here on out, no more phone calls, no more private talks, everything in writing. Screenshots, emails, texts, start a binder." I asked her if they could really win. She didn't sugarcoat it. "Depends on the judge," she said. "But you're doing the right things. Stay calm, stay clean, and protect your daughter." Then she leaned in and said something I'll never forget. "The biggest mistake people like your parents make is underestimating how far a mother will go to protect her child." A week passed. Then, too, the Facebook posts had died down. The pastor didn't come back. But I kept hearing things, whispers from mutual friends. An old coworker of my mom's emailed me out of nowhere. Said she'd seen the posts and wasn't surprised. Told me she once saw my mom call me a drain on her life during a Zoom call when she didn't know she was unmuted. Then came the weird stuff. Anonymous messages from burner accounts. Things like, "Poor Gracie. She deserves a real family. Hope CPS comes back soon. Your daughter will hate you when she's older, just like you hate your own mom." Every time one came in, I screenshotted it and forwarded it to Deirdre. She started building a folder. Then one day, Gracie's school called again. Not about CPS this time. This was worse. Somehow, my mom had sent a letter to Gracie's classroom. Not to me, not to our house. To the school. The envelope was pink. Had little stickers on it. Looked like it was from a kid. The secretary opened it, saw it was clearly from an adult, and flagged it before handing it over. They scanned it and sent it to me. It was written in a childish tone, almost like it was trying to sound like a storybook. It said things like, "Grandma misses you so much. Mommy is mad right now, but that's okay. Sometimes mommies make mistakes too. When you're older, you'll understand. Until then, remember that Grandma loves you more than anything. You'll always have a place at our house, always." It even had a little drawing at the bottom of a house with two stick figures, one tall, one small, standing outside. Underneath, it said, "Our real home." I stared at the screen, shaking. They'd crossed a line. They'd gone around me. Again. And this time they were trying to get in her head. I forwarded the letter to Deirdre, called the school. Had them block any incoming mail from my mom's address. Then I sat on the couch, shaking, thinking about every time I'd told myself it was just words. Just my mom being tough. Just old school. And I realized something. This wasn't just toxic anymore. It was war. And I wasn't going to lose, not this time. 2 days after that letter showed up at Gracie's school, I went quiet. Not scared. Not panicking, just focused. I didn't talk to Jolene. I didn't respond to my mom. I didn't post anything. I stopped reacting altogether. And that scared them more than anything I'd done before. Because silence, when it comes from someone like me, someone who used to take every hit and still show up for dinner, means something's coming. And it was. I started digging. Not for gossip. Not for payback. For proof. See, you don't go toe-to-toe with people like my parents without something solid to hold in your hand. The truth won't always win in court, but evidence. That's a whole different story. I found it by accident. One night after Gracie went to bed, I pulled out an old laptop from the hall closet. It was dusty, slow, barely held a charge. It used to be my mom's. She gave it to me years ago when she upgraded, said I could have it for parts. I never bothered with it. But now, something told me to look. I charged it up, turned it on, and started clicking through folders. Most of it was recipes and emails, junk. But then I found a folder called Jolene Tuition 2017. And inside that, bank statements from a private account I didn't recognize. At first, I thought it was just my dad's savings or something, but then I saw the sender's name, John Wexler. It didn't click right away. Then I remembered. Wexler was the name of my dad's old boss. He owned a construction company in Kansas City. They used to be close, golf every weekend close. But then one day, Dad got fired, said it was budget cuts. Only that wasn't the whole story. Because inside that folder were scanned copies of checks from John Wexler to my mom. Personal checks. Large ones. $3,500, $7,000, $4,200 over and over. Labeled consulting or child support reimbursement. The amounts didn't make sense until I opened the final file. A letter from John to my mom, dated 2016. I appreciate everything you've done to keep this between us. I know it's hard not being part of Jolene's life directly, but I trust you're using the money as agreed. Thank you for protecting her. My blood went cold. Jolene wasn't my dad's kid. She was Wexler's, and my dad never knew. I stayed up all night, printing, organizing, stacking everything into a neat binder labeled with tabs, bank records, letters, emails, everything, all the proof. At 6 a.m., I made coffee, got dressed, and drove straight to their neighborhood. Didn't call first, didn't knock when I got there either. Just walked right into their front yard and started putting up signs. Big ones, bright red letters on cardboard, hammered into the frozen lawn. Frank, SHE lied. Jolene's not your daughter. Ask your wife where the WXLER money went. Merry Christmas. My mom came outside screaming 5 minutes later. What the hell do you think you're doing? I held up the binder and said, loud enough for the neighbors to hear, you should have stayed out of Gracie's life. Now everyone's gonna know what you are. She lunged for me. I didn't move. She stopped short, half in slippers, hair a mess, and realized I wasn't afraid of her anymore. Not even a little. Behind her, I saw my dad standing in the doorway, staring at the signs, holding his morning coffee. He didn't say a word, didn't yell, just walked over, read one of the signs again, and turned back inside. That was the last time they were seen in public together. 2 weeks later, divorce papers were filed. My dad left the house. Wexler's name came up in the filing. Jolene stopped talking to both of them. The fallout was exactly what they deserved. But it didn't stop there. Remember the church? Pastor Daniels? He resigned. Turns out, my mom had been donating large sums from that private account to the church's building fund. Once the truth about the Wexler money came out, the elders investigated. Found misappropriated funds, found other secrets too. The church cut ties with her. Her Facebook groups, gone. Her reputation, ruined. She tried to save face, of course. Claimed she was manipulated, that I'd hacked her files, that I was mentally unstable. Nobody believed her. Too many people had seen the screenshots, the letter to Gracie, the CPS stunt, the school envelope, the fake apology. The receipts were there. And as for me, I didn't get out of this spotless. I lost some friends, people who didn't like how public I made it. Said I should have taken the high road. But the ones who mattered, they stayed. And Gracie, she started therapy, real therapy, with someone who helps kids untangle family trauma. She doesn't talk about grandma anymore, not out of fear. Just because she's moved on. She made a new gingerbread house this year. It was taller, brighter, with gold glitter on the roof and her name written in jelly beans. She called it the Truth House. I asked her why. She said because everything that was fake broke last year, and this one's real. I didn't cry then either. I just hugged her and said, damn right it is. And my parents, they don't have each other anymore. They don't have their image. They don't have Gracie. And they don't have me. All they have now is each other's silence. And every night they sit in that cold, quiet house and remember the one rule they forgot. When you come for someone's kid, you better be ready to lose everything. Because some of us, we don't forgive, we finish it.